I will kill you!
Hey guys, Smell the Spear here, how y'all doing? And welcome back to another episode of Seduce Me to the Demon War.
I will kill you!
He said that twice, didn't he? Within a blink, the hold on me vanished, and Sam flew back from Diana, releasing her and slamming into... Within a blink, the hold on me vanished, and Sam flew back from Diana, releasing her and slamming into the far wall. I crumbled to the ground and quickly looked up to see Cyril holding Diana close to his side, as his form emanated a holy white aura. His eyes burned intense, deadly hatred as a white-tinted magical barrier surrounded his and Diana's bodies.
Enough!
Sam shook his head and jumped up, but at the sight of the real me, he instantly dropped his sword and tackled me, wrapping his arms around me and hugging me tightly.
Holy shit! You're okay!
Sam! I stared into his shoulder, feeling him shake violently as he held me. My body couldn't help but shudder with him, feeling every ounce of his love as he gripped me tightly. He knew where his heart belonged, and it led him back to me even with unbelievable odds, and tempting to sway him. I wrapped my arms around Sam and buried my face into his shoulder, nodding to him. I'm right here, Sam. Sam refused to let go, digging his fingers into my skirt and pulling me even closer to his chest. I could feel his heartbeat pound against his chest as he pressed me against him. I, however, peeked over Sam's shoulder to see Diana shift back from my image to her own form, collapsing against Sarah. With ease, Sarah lifted Diana into his arms like she was a bride who had fainted but continued to glare at the black of Sam's head. Finally, Sam lifted his head and looked at Sarah, growing a glare of his own.
Tell that bitch to stay away from me if she wants to keep breathing.
I can hear you, brute.
I'd rather tell Sam the truth. Sam was completely right to be angry. He had every right to want her to stay away from him. However, he also deserved to know the truth of why they did what they did. Sam, they had to. Sam looked at me with a confused look, mixed with anger, still emanating from his rage at Diana, no doubt. I gripped Sam's shoulder and forced him to fully face me. There's this voice that keeps saying, "You're being tested." It said that Diana and Sarah were following its order and testing you. I knew I was making little to no sense, but it was the truth of the matter. Sam had to believe me. His eyes continued to flood with confusion, making me worried.
She's telling the truth.
I didn't ask you, bitch.
She doesn't need your permission to speak, mutt.
Sam closed his eyes and pressed his lips together, most likely taking in what they had said before he glared at Sarah and Diane.
Why?
Sarah continued to glare at Sam in silence, but Diane lifted her head and looked to Sam from Sarah's arms.
Because it said it will ensure our victory.
Sam raised an eyebrow, slowly starting to believe that this was a false reason, but I held his arm, looking to him in hope and earnest. Sam took a moment to look at me before sighing and shaking his head.
What said that?
Some powerful being. I don't know why, but I can feel that this being is more powerful than any of us.
Is that it?
Diana nodded and rested her head on Sarah's chest, causing him to hug her body against him.
It won't speak its name, but we're certain we'll find out what it is.
Sam nodded before looking to the ground.
Can you go now?
Without another word, Sarah walked out of the room with Diana, most likely to help her recover from the training day ahead.
I'm going to kick the shit out of him in training.
At least we were alone. I let out a sigh and wrapped my arms around Sam, laying my forehead against his shoulder. You okay?
No, I'm not. Whatever this thing that keeps testing me is, it got you involved.
Sam wrapped his arms around me and buried his head in my hair, letting out an aggravated sigh.
I'm sorry. Diana was pretending to be you, and I just...
I could hear the regret in his voice, slightly breaking my heart. I knew deep down that he would never hurt me, and that he was just trying to find me. I was wise enough to know the reason for his anger. Sam was distraught and I needed to ease his worry. I understood him perfectly. I hugged Sam to me and kissed his cheek. As he trembled in my arms, he wrapped his arms back around me and simply let silence pass between us.
What the fuck is going on?
I didn't know what to say, so I simply held him until it was time to train. I went to the grand hall knowing Sarah would either be there expecting me or would arrive there shortly after me. Nevertheless, I was ready to train again with him. What I didn't expect was seeing Sarah and Diana in the room. I quickly ducked back around the corner and listened, not wanting to disturb them if they were talking.
That damn little... How dare she...
My lady, please, calm down.
Wait, what? What was going on?
No, Sero, it is not all right. That selfish brat had the nerve to...
Isaiah, please. I'm all right, I swear.
Stop talking and let me finish.
Dana's harsh tone echoed through the hall, out of the doorway before a soft sigh followed. I peered around the corner and watched as Diana ran her hand along Sarah's cheek, gingerly tracing a mark on it with her fingers. Radiant purple light emanated from her hands as Diana glided it back and forth over Sarah's skin. Sarah, however, had a small smile painted over his lip as he watched her work.
Damn her to the deepest pits of hell.
You're being too harsh, my lady.
Buskaya is being a selfish brat, Sero. I saved her from dying, and this is how she repays me? Ungrateful little...
I didn't understand what was happening, but I could tell there was another woman involved. Someone named Buskara. What was really odd was that Diana was acting strange. She was upset over something a girl did to Sarah. It was kind of cute, but it was not what I expected from Diana.
You're being adorable right now.
Diana suddenly stopped moving and looked up at Sarah in surprise. A large blush splashed across her cheeks. Sarah, growing bolder, gently lifted a hand up between them and placed it under her chin, lifting her head slightly.
I promise that I'm all right. She barely scratched me.
But she...
Loves her mistress very much, just like I do. She couldn't help it. I did try to surprise you after all. She was startled and wanted to protect you, just like I would have.
Diana grumbled, pressing her lips into a fine line as she stared down at his chest.
She still attacked you.
Which I'm sure she's very sorry for. Let it go.
Sarah moved his hand to cup Diana's cheek, rubbing his thumb along her cheekbone. Diana closed her eyes but didn't lean into his hand.
You know, you didn't yell at me for saying your name.
My priority was not correcting you.
You were concerned about me.
Yes, I was. Why wouldn't I be?
Sarah frowned a bit as Diana opened her eyes and looked up at him, trying to appear unfazed at his teasing. However, the blush that still radiated from her face didn't lie.
Why are you concerned about me, Isaiah? You've protected me my whole life when it's my job to protect you. You didn't correct me again.
Silence followed as Sarah waited for her to answer. I was curious myself, especially since she seemed to not recuperate Sarah's feelings. Diana closed her eyes and took a small breath before finally replying.
I care about you, Sarah. You've been by my side ever since we were mere children. Every time you've gotten hurt,
I watched in awe as Diana brought her hand up and ran her fingers along the scar on his chest between the lapels of his jacket. Sarah stared as Diana traced around it, her face painted in sadness.
I know you vowed to protect me with your life, but that doesn't mean you must accept every wound on your body as insignificant.
Diana closed her eyes, forming a fist against Sarah's chest, and clenching it hard. The scar must have had some significance to make her that upset. I bit my lower lip. I was watching this unfold, unsure of what to do. Should I leave them be? Should I interrupt? I did have to train. I'd rather let them finish. I didn't want to be rude. Whatever they had to settle, I needed to be patient. I stepped close to the wall behind me and listened further, peeking to barely see what was going on.
It still bothers me. I thought I was going to lose you that day.
But you stepped in.
I did. That was the day before you signed your life away to me. A stupid decision.
I stared wide-eyed as Sarah cupped Diana's cheek and forced her to look up at him, making her gasp and meet his gaze in surprise.
Stop. I won't let you think that my decision was a mistake.
Diana closed her eyes and leaned her cheek ever so slightly against Sarah's hand, making him visibly inhale and breathe of surprise.
I don't think I will ever understand you. Even after all of these years, I still don't understand your devotion.
Diana let out a small sigh before stepping away and looking up at Sarah with a serious expression.
I should go. The boys will be waiting for me to train them, and your student will be here soon.
Without letting Sarah reply, Diana turned and walked towards the door. I stepped away from my hiding spot, not wanting Diana to know I was eavesdropping. As I came into her view, she froze for a second before continuing on out of the room and down the hall. Sarah watched as she left, staring at the back of her head until it vanished beyond the doorframe. I looked over and finally walked towards Sarah, not wanting to interrupt his gaze with my presence.
She really can't see it.
Sarah. Sarah finally turned and looked at me, with eyes drowned in hopelessness. It was almost heartbreaking to see his face so heavy and downtrodden. He seemed to have completely confided in me with this new expression, because I was positive that this was an emotion he hid very well from most everyone. Sarah finally looked to the ground.
My lady doesn't understand love. She's always been told that love for her is impossible because of who she is, no matter how much she dreams of it. Because of that, she can't recognize it, even when it's standing right in front of her.
To help him out, we're going to say there has to be a way. It was a matter of circumstances. She needed to see his love for her. If she was bred to accept that love didn't exist, then we needed to prove that what she knew was wrong. Sarah looked up at me in surprise, a small glimmer of hope rekindling at my words.
You really think that she...
I know she can. I mean, look at me. I'm going to be married to the man I love. Surely love exists, even for demons. I watched with a smile as I saw happiness slowly seep back into Sarah's expression. He couldn't give up on her. He would be able to show her his love somehow. After a brief moment, Sarah let out a sigh, Closing his eyes, he turned to me, and when he opened his eyes, my relentless trainer had appeared with a serious look on his face. Without having to say anything to me, he stepped back and summoned his spear. That was a fast turnaround. He placed a foot behind him and prepared himself into a stance. Wait, wasn't he going to materialize my weapon? How was I? Sarah suddenly charged at me, making me screech and dodge out of the way. What was he doing? Sarah!
What are you waiting for? Summon your weapons!
What? He wasn't being serious, right? He expected me to use magic? That was impossible. As I managed to duck and dodge his attacks, my fingertips began to tingle, energy rushed through my veins and under my skin, tickling my nerves. It was unnatural, but somehow I felt comfortable with it. Was this truly magic at work, or was I just nervous, not wanting to be skewered? Try. I had to try. I jumped away from Sarah and quickly closed my eyes, focusing on my hands. I needed my weapons. Within my hands formed 2 lavender orbs, circling around my hands. They glistened before finally shifting and forming into the katars I was used to, gripping it and feeling it physically in my hand. I smirked and turned back to Sarah, bracing for another attack. Parry! I couldn't help but smirk as I stepped forward and practically backhanded his spear with the gauntlet of my katar, making it bounce away from my body and leaving his own body open for an attack. Like a repeated memory, I attacked him, clashing my weapon with his multiple times. The chime of our weapons smashing against each other rang through the room, the sound almost piercing my mind. It wasn't a noise I was ever going to be used to. Like the last time, we trained for hours on end, stopping once or twice for a break. However, I could feel my body slowly getting used to the feel of swinging a weapon and defending myself. At least I would be prepared in case something were to happen. As the sun began to set and the purple skies began to darken, we stopped once again. For a third and most likely final break, Sarah stretched and let out a small yawn as I did the same. I think I'm getting used to this. A chuckle escaped Sarah's throat as he rose from one of his stretches that stopped both of us from laughing. Was an echoed conversation in the hall softly reverberating into the room. Huh?
Are you sure? Another kingdom wants to join the rebellion?
Interesting.
It would seem so. Diana isn't happy about it, though.
Why not? The leader of that kingdom is so handsome!
Oh god.
He was indeed. But an alliance through marriage?
Oh, come on! You can't tell me I'm the only one who can see it! I can see them being a beautiful king and queen!
I don't think she will marry him, despite it being a wise choice.
She would be stupid not to.
Well, the last time she signed her life away to marriage, her entire family was killed off while she was away. I don't think she could ever let marriage control her again.
I guess... Man, the only person she has now is that guard.
My curiosity took a hold of me and caused me to hug the wall near the door, listening in further. Sarah, however, remained where he was, looking towards the ground.
I wonder how they met. He's not an incubus, but he's mega powerful.
He is indeed very skilled. I'm slightly jealous of her for having such a devoted guard.
I so feel like a eavesdropping ninja right now.
Devoted? He's crazy! I've heard them talk in private before. He keeps saying that he's in love with her. Love!
That is very odd. However, I wouldn't be surprised if her natural aura has affected him after years of servitude. I believe he's been with her since they were children, so that's over 100 years of protecting her and being close.
Yeah! He's probably probably just enthralled by her. She enthralls everyone she meets.
A pure-blooded succubus will do that. At least she's the only pure-blooded demon of Lilith in the world.
That we know of, at least.
The conversation trailed off as the pair moved away from the room, and I looked back to Cyril. Seeing him grip his spear and grit his teeth, he didn't seem to like what Rabbit and Faye had to say. Cyril? Sarah looked up at me, a dull gaze over his eyes. From the expression on his face, I could tell that he had heard things like that before, but it still seemed to affect him emotionally. I frowned and walked over to him as he shook his head.
What they said about her marriage was true. When the Demon Lord's heirs left the demon world, my lady left to go after them. However, while she was gone, the Demon Lord attacked this castle.
I watched as Cyril gripped his spear even tighter than before, shutting his eyes and turning his head away from me, almost in shame.
The Demon Lord's henchmen, the imp demons who brought you here, infiltrated our defenses and were able to reach the heart of the castle, where my lady's parents and unborn baby sister were hiding. Through some form of blood magic, they were able to break through the protective barriers around the room and...
He didn't need to explain. The heavy weight in my gut acknowledged what he was going to say before he could speak it. I looked to the floor, suddenly feeling very sorry for Diana. She lost her entire family while she had been in the human world, trying to save them. It was too cruel. Sarah let out a shaky sigh before looked back up to me.
When my lady returned, she vowed to seek vengeance and destroy the Demon Lord's tyranny. She formed the rebellion, and now, here we are, readying ourselves for the final battle. Everyone only sees the hard-faced, cutthroat queen of the rebellion when they look at her, as if she were unable to love or care.
It's not true, though. Sarah had reached up for his collar, where a beautiful purple rose charm hung. His fingers ran over the surface as he smiled to himself.
However, Isaiah is still the sweet and innocent girl I grew up with. She's still the woman who saved me and protected me from a fate worse than death. I know deep down that the love I feel for her is pure and true. I vowed to protect her with my life, and I will forever stand by that promise.
You go, boy.
It's just difficult to hope that one day things may change, and that the one you love may turn around and say they love you in return.
I like choice 3 because it's more or less saying I want him to go after her. More or less, if I do choice 1, it says, Sarah, I'm sorry. I don't know what to say. But I'd rather him prove his love to her. Is there any way to prove your love for her? Sarah didn't reply. He looked at me deep in thought. Before shaking his head, I thought I saw a glimmer of hope, but he rid himself of whatever thought he had been focusing on.
Never mind that. We need to focus. Let's continue.
I nodded, taking up my weapon again and preparing for our final sparring match. I slowly made my way into the room and sat back onto the bed, letting the rush of exhaustion run through me like a wave of water. I shut my eyes and fell back onto the mattress with a soft thud. And with that, guys, I'm going to end this episode here, and I'll talk to you guys in the next episode. Talk to you guys later. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked that video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, you can always subscribe. You can always drop me a line down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Talk to you guys later.